Hello, everyone. Welcome to this latest episode of BioDevils podcast. I'm hosting today in Brandel. So for today, we will be talking about the Fear Effect remake and also dabbling into how remakes should be made, for future reference, whatever, right? And this is going to be potentially a short one though, because I didn't have a lot of questions to ask, and the announcement was fairly recently, so it don't have a lot of information. But that being said, though, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce my panel. Starting from Chaos.
What's going on, guys?
All right, and Divic.
Hello.
And welcome. And last but not least, DevilHunterJames.
Hello there.
Hi. And to start things off, have you guys played the original game, or do you have like secondhand experience, like I don't know, watching Let's Play or watch someone else play, anything like that?
Secondhand in my case.
All right. Who's gonna go first?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So I never played like the original until just recently, and I pretty much just played it in preparation for this podcast. So, yeah, I did not manage to beat it before we started the podcast, but I got like about halfway. Yeah, so far my impressions, I like the game. I really like the it has a unique art style I find appealing. The characters are all interesting and entertaining. And it really doesn't feel like it really takes itself all too seriously, which I like. It feels very cheesy in a lot of ways, not in a bad way, like I would say in a good way. I would compare it to, kind of a B action, like, a horror movie mixed with mixed with just a generic horror movie as well. But, like it's kind of the best of both genres, I guess. But yeah, like the gameplay is interesting because it feels like it takes elements of survival horror, but also leans heavy into the action, like just action shooter elements as well. It's kind of an interesting blend of genres, and especially with the fixed camera angles as well, where it does have the fixed camera angles and has the puzzle solving elements of a survival horror game. But like I said, it does lean more into action, where there are quite a few shooting segments. There are some forced and some optional stealth segments as well. And I think it does do those things fairly well for the most part. There are definitely some things that have not aged very well. But for the most part, I've enjoyed what I've played of it. So once we get past a certain point, I'm probably not going to know what you guys are referring to, if you're referring to stuff that happens in either later in the game or in Retro Helix, because I haven't played that one either. So, but yeah, I have played a little bit of the first game, so that's pretty much all the information I'm going off of right now.
Oh, nothing word though. It's not like a serious thing. So
okay.
Hopefully there won't be too much spoiler stuff, whatever, right? But no, it's whatever. If you don't mind it. Debbie, you want to go next?
Yeah. No, I played him as a young lad. In finding out about growing up and playing Resident Evil, Silent Hill, Dino Crisis, kind of always looking for that next sort of fix. And I remember very specifically because I played the second one before I played the first one. I saw a magazine ad of one of the girls from the second one giving the other one a back massage, and they were holding guns. And they were almost naked. And I was like, oh my God, I have to get this fucking game. This is going to be awesome. So, and it was, there's, God, I remember two more than one most of the time because I played it first. And they're both incredibly cool games that try to put like kind of a neat spin on the fixed camera angle thing. It's not so much survival horror as it is kind of like action horror. But yeah, oh yeah, there you go. You found the ad. But it has this like there's something about the cell shading characters and like the FMV backgrounds and all the pre-rendered stuff in there that they try to do that just like really makes it kind of this really unique feeling game. The Resident Evil games have all this like fixed camera stuff, and you have that here, but you also have like these full motion video going on in the background at the same time. And there's in a lot of sections, there's a lot of creepy shit going on. Borderline unhinged when you get to the second game. So Super, super neat games. And then I didn't play Sedna, which I think is like an XCOM style game, or looks like Commandos or something.
It's sad, no, honestly, but it's like a metric type game. It's not nothing like the first two at all.
Yeah. I know they have the same characters, but it looks like it's like XCOM or it's like Commandos or something like that, where it's like this real time strategy or turn based strategy or something like that. But those first two games, those hit really, really well. I loved them when I played them. Still like them.
All right, Jameson.
My experience is more limited from a Let's Play I watched forever ago. I just remember it starts out normal and gets very supernatural by the end with like, what was it, Chinese zombies and stuff like that in the first game? The first game's the only one I've seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes from normal to 0 to supernatural, aka 100%. Like
that might be one of my favorite tropes in gaming in general.
Well, and the funny thing is that like I don't know, maybe they explain it more later, but I just like I remember like just playing the first level and it's like, oh, okay, so you're shooting these dudes and they're in like some kind of Chinese crime family or whatever, and then it's all of a sudden zombies. Just literally just zombies show up just because, and I was like, okay, so I guess we're doing this.
Yeah, it does explain it all, but it's like a whiplash. It had to so
zombies and zombies and ninjas, because I guess why not? You know, like it feels like this is the thing I find entertaining, at least about Fear Effect, is just like it feels like they're just like, yeah, let's just throw everything at the wall. Eventually, something will stick. I guess, you know, it's like
that. I will say that intro, the FMV for the first game, the introduction one, where you have not only like there's like a woman giving birth and she turns into like a zombie, and then some dude is trying to bang Hannah and he gets shot in the head, and it's like it's so violent and crazy and weird. I was immediately obsessed with the game.
I saw the intro, but I don't remember that. I maybe I need to watch it again. I must miss that part.
It's just so weird, and like the way characters are killed in that game, especially when you like F up, it's like so violent for the time. Super, like just one of those things that really stuck out.
I do like how there's like unique death animations for certain things if you mess up.
Oh yeah.
Dude, the death animations are fucking amazing, especially the one and 2 though, the elevator. God, that one still scars me. But I guess I'll go ahead and give my experience though. Mine was first with the Let's Play. I was looking at something to watch on YouTube when I was like 15, whatever, and I came across the Let's Play of both 1 and 2. Right, I watched it. I'm like, holy shit, this stuff is actually really nice. It wasn't some time later when I finally played the game via my PSP, because hackings and stuff. Well, I finally dabbled into it, and I got fucking annihilated by the game because I had no idea what I was in for, because I didn't have a manual or anything to go by, so I had to learn as I go. But yeah, they became one of my personal favorite PS1 games, right next to like say Resident Evil and Tomb Raider and whatnot. Like, these games are just fucking stellar. Now they age well in certain areas, but not the best. But that's going to be the next question, which I'm going to read that off. Do you feel like how dated is the game to you guys that played it or whatever? Like for me, the controls.
I'll go over this since it's fresh in my mind. There are some, I will be honest, there are some segments in the game where I got really frustrated because of so I thought at first maybe this was an emulation problem, and I was looking to see if like other people had these issues, and I think it's just an issue with the game. But there is one particular segment right after you start disc 3, like right when you get locked up in that room in the Chinese restaurant, and you have to pour oil on a specific location on the floor. For some reason, the character, I forget what his name is, Glass, I think, he doesn't want to pour the oil. Like he'll be like, nope. I would go into different segments of that particular part on the floor to get him to pour the oil. He would not do it. I spent over an hour reloading, trying to get him to do it. Eventually he does it, but it feels like, I don't know what the term is. It's like some kind of RNG or something, I guess. Like it doesn't matter where you are. You just like you have to get lucky. You just like, you have to get wherever you're supposed to be in that area just to be able to successfully pour the oil. I don't know how it works, but you literally just have to luck out, I guess, because I could not find an explanation as to why that was happening. But stuff like that, that shit is frustrating as hell to me. And I feel like, yeah, remake could fix that. But judging by the way the trailer looked, I don't know if they're going. Obviously, I don't think they're going for the same kind of gameplay style as the original game. It's not necessarily that. I guess you just chalk that up to like, you know, kind of the game being a little bit broken, I guess, in certain sections. So
the game is definitely on the technical side. It's kind of broken.
Yeah, like I would have, well, also just to mention, like there are other issues where like I would be trying to use an item and for some reason you need to be standing in a specific position or something in order for you to use the item, even though you're using the proper item and using it on the right thing. Sometimes the characters will adamantly refuse to use it. Sometimes I would have to go back to that area and use the item again, and eventually it would work, but I'd have to keep doing it. So like that shit really started to get to me, and it started to drive me crazy, honestly. So like that is one of the things I really don't care for about the original game, I'll say. It really got on my nerves after a while. I was like, this is not aged well in that regard. I don't know what exactly it is, but for some reason the game just I don't know. It has that issue where it will not always like register if you're trying to use something, if you're not, I guess, standing in the proper position or whatever. But yeah, that was one of the things I didn't really care for about the original game.
Another thing too, also to add to the outdatedness is the FMV backgrounds.
Yeah.
On one hand, though, like compared to its generation, like compared to other games like it's definitely one of the best looking ones, though. But because they FMV, though, they kind of like pigeonhole themselves for future things. Because let's say the game has like a PC release, you cannot mod the game to make it look better. In contrast to, let's say, the Resident Evil games like 2 and 3 with the GameCube remakes, as fans call it. So like it does not age well in the current time.
Something else too is that in regards to the FMV backgrounds, when you look at them, you can tell when they're like when the loop restarts, I guess, because you know they're constantly moving, but you can tell when it starts over because it's in a loop. So that it
has no good transition then.
It's really obvious.
Usually with loops, you want to try and make a smooth transition between them so you can't tell. It's kind of like the same thing with music looping.
Well, and I think for the time, because of how much space those damn things took up, I think they did, for the time they did a damn good job. I mean, you can definitely tell where they're looping and stuff like that. But I guarantee you, if they didn't have those FMV backgrounds, the game would be able to fit on a single disc. I'm confident that a majority of the disk space is spent on those backgrounds alone.
Yeah, because
which speaks to how much they were really kind of not like banking on them, but how much kind of work went into them already. But oh yeah, you could totally tell when they like, it's like watching a I don't know, any kind of animation that's got like a flash animation or a loop or something like that, and there's like that hard cut and then goes back.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I was actually surprised at how quickly I had to switch to the next disc. Like I was like, it was like the entirety of the first level is disc 1, and then disc 2 is like technically, I guess you'd say, the second level. Third level, disc 3. So it's kind of like that. And I was like, I thought it would be a little bit longer, but I guess not. But I guess it makes sense when you take that into consideration.
Yeah. FMVs were the absolute because there was no, if you compressed them, they would look like shit. And the thing is, you're already working with really limited hardware at the time anyway. So they tried to blow them up as much as they could without it being an 8-disc game. So instead, you compromise for 4 basically. Yeah. But majority of what's taken up is, it's mostly FMVs on those discs. As far as things that have aged well, it's a PlayStation 1 game, so there's things that definitely have not aged well. I'm always going to be the boomer opinion that fixed camera angle stuff is awesome. That being said, most of what I play I do it via emulator. And the only caveat to playing something on an emulator is the 3D models or anything that actually has to move around and is modeled in the game is really cleaned up, and everything else is not.
I've noticed that.
You can't do that with an emulator. If I had a CRT and was playing it on a PlayStation, like the actual hardware, it would be a completely different story because it would look how it's, quote unquote supposed to look. But with emulation, you just have to get over the fact that the pre-rendered backgrounds are going to be really terrible looking compared to all the smoothing and texture filtering on 3D models.
Yeah,
that's the big caveat.
That's why I mentioned the Resident Evil ports for like 2 and 3, like have fans clean up that game, this pre-rendered backgrounds, wherever, how that looks. Because of this is FOV though, you cannot do that. But no, it's obviously something you just can't go and edit without the raw file itself, right?
Right.
So,
unless some maniac took every single frame of it and touched it up, which a psychopath would do that.
yeah.
Like I've only seen it with like RE1 remake. So when AI upscaled everything, I was like, wow, this looks way better than what the hell Capcom did.
Yeah, or like with the Seamless HD remake for Resident Evil 2 and 3, like those dudes are psychopaths. They took every fucking background and upscaled it. Or the Silent Hill 2 HD Enhanced Edition or whatever. That team they're full of crazy people because they touched up everything in that goddamn game. I can't imagine how arduous of a process that was.
I think the best thing I've seen from the RE team, the AI upscalers, is probably the RE3 FMV. So they upscaled that to like 4K. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, right.
I don't even think you could upscale FMVs like that. Holy shit.
That's my definitive way to experience RE3 now.
It's like it's actually HD.
And, the Ultimate mod, like, it's insane.
Yeah, Seamless is, I wouldn't say the only way to play, but at this point, it is the more definitive looking way to play that game. Like 2 and 3.
That is how I recommend people play Remake 1 and then play Seamless HD 2 and 3. And then play HD 4 because if you want to talk about real, psycho behavior, that guy going out and photographing the reference material that Capcom used in Resident Evil 4 and taking like really, really highly detailed like texture photos of all this stuff and then creating the game textures from scratch, that's psychotic.
He even replaced some of the assets on RE4 that were like there's some houses that are like super close to you in that game, like towards the military island, and he actually replaced them with actual 3D model replacements. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, this dude basically went.
I was like, Jesus.
Yeah, he went all over Spain and like found these places and photographed them like meticulously. It's great, just like a grate that you find in the sewer. Like was a very particular, I can't, there was like a couple of like children or men or something like that facing each other. It was this really interesting design in the stone. And dude found that. And I think you only find it in like 2 spots in the game. And he went and took these meticulous photographs and made these highly detailed models for them. I mean, that guy's crazy.
That man going to pay for that. Holy
I think the craziest one is he found Ashley's armor, the night armor she wears. For the
costume. No shit. Oh my God.
Yeah. And it's literally the same thing. And he just actually made it look nice.
That's great.
I think it took him 8 years, 7 more.
It was a long time because I remember hearing about it and I was like, oh, that's neat. And then it was like, it was nearly a decade. And then it was like a couple months ago, it finally came out. And then he was doing the stuff for Mercenaries and Ada's story too. It's like, holy shit.
Even if Capcom put more effort into RE4, I doubt they would have ever tried to go that far.
No, they wouldn't. They would not.
That is beyond most AAA companies anyway.
Yeah, that's a dude who loved that game and still continues to love that game. So pure passion project.
It's like that meme where the fans are like, "Fine, I'll do it myself."
Yeah. So any more thoughts on or any more things you want to say about number 2, like how well the game's age or anything else that's really outdated in your opinion? English. What the fuck is it? Jameson?
No, that's pretty much it. You guys covered it. Like I said, my experience is very limited. I haven't played it myself, so not qualified to say enough.
Are you on to the juicy part of this cast? The remake.
Oh boy.
So
that I will talk about.
Dumb question, of course, but I'm sure you guys seen the trailer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And so the floor is yours. So what is your initial thought on that trailer alone?
So I want to put whoever listens to this in the headspace where I was, because I knew there were quite a few people in the Discord looking forward to seeing this trailer. We're excited. And in through experience, you guys kind of know I sort of love like disasters because I think they're funny. Because everybody reacts to them so poorly and it makes me giggle, even if it's something I really love. Like if Resident Evil 4 remake were to be an absolute car wreck, I would like giggle, even though it would hurt me because that's just the kind of person I am, because it's the only way I know how to react to that stuff. So I remember everybody is in the chat in YouTube and they're like, oh my God, we're so excited and blah, blah, blah. And me and Dom are like, okay, well, just, kind of maybe keep it tempered a little bit. Like, no, this is going to be amazing. Oh, I love Fear Effect so much. I don't know where these people came from, by the way, because these people have been hiding in a hole somewhere for the last 15 years. And
they always hide in a hole for this stuff.
It's like these people were non-existent until like 30 minutes before this thing started. And then the trailer starts, and the instant I see it's a third-person shooter, I just start laughing like a maniac because I'm like, you could have picked any kind of game genre, and at least as poorly received as Sedna was, at the very least, they tried something different. Mm-hmm. But no, what is this team doing right now? They chose the path of least resistance. They should have just made a fucking gotcha game at this rate. They chose a third-person shooter, a generic cover-based third-person shooter, which we have a billion of at this point. And they chose to put some like techno action music over it. And it doesn't look great. And I don't like to trash when people make a game, because I know a bunch of people worked on it and worked really hard. But at the same time, the guns don't even line up with Hannah when she's aiming. There looks like there's no impact when you're firing things. We didn't get any kind of soundscape of what anything sounds like. We just got like a generic kind of action track. And she looks terrible. And then that was it. And then credits hit. And then I could feel the Discord collectively weep towards the heavens. And I just had this big shit-eating grin on my face. And I'm just like, this is like absolutely the worst thing you could have done. You could have re-released Diablo Immortal, and I maybe would have been like, okay, that's an interesting direction, but awful.
Yeah. Another point of contention too is the environment. So, because on one hand, I do like what they're trying to do here, though, but at the same time, it doesn't look finished. Like, just too jaggy.
I'm just remembering Brandon's initial reaction.
Oh, God.
And then Dom's reaction. I'm like, are you guys going to a funeral? What happened? Because I didn't know what they were upset about at first. They had to explain it. I'm like, that sounds awful.
I hopped into a channel and I tagged Brandon immediately. I was like, hey, man, that new Fear Effect looks really cool. It looks awesome. I don't think you talked to me for a couple days. I think you were pissed. I think you were like legitimately pissed off because I'm going to make a joke about it, but like,
I'm going to make a meme in the meantime while this is going.
It's like it's the most nothing of nothings that you could possibly do with a gaming franchise that's so far removed from that. I don't know.
Yeah. Like, I mean, to me, it just seems like it's a fundamental misunderstanding of what made the game special, I guess, like the original game, since, like we mentioned, it's sort of a unique blend of different things, and kind of just making it a cover shooter is just a really weird direction to go. I mean, yeah, the original game definitely was leaning heavy into action, but it had other things as well that made it, made it stand out, I would say. This being a cover shooter, it is like it's been said, it just makes it seem like every other game that's like that. What makes it different? What makes it unique? In terms of the remake. I mean, if it's just going to be this cover shooter, like, I don't know. I don't know who decided that was a good idea.
Yeah. I'm glad you say that too, because they didn't show enough of the game as well.
I was going to say that too. Yeah, we only got to see the first level, and I mean, it makes me wonder like how far along they are with this game. I mean, because I kind of would think that they would show some of the other, the other places you go to in the game as well. Just if just a little bit briefly, I guess. But it's just
it's going to be early access and have a season pass too. Calling it
based on the way those animations are. I can't imagine very far.
check out the Fear Effect Battle Pass.
Yeah, and I mean the other thing too is the combat does not look particularly fun, just based on what I've seen of it. Now I will say I guess I should have mentioned this too. One of the things I feel like has not actually aged too well about the original game, like the combat is fun at times, but it's also annoying. So the thing I don't like about the way the shooting works in the original is like you have to wait until the targeting reticle shows up for you to even shoot anybody. Like if you're in the general, if you're shooting in their general direction, you won't hit them until that shows up. But like if it's not there, you will not hit anything. And I don't really like that mechanic. I feel like there should be some kind of an aiming thing or something. I didn't like that was how they handled it. But my thing is like they should have, if they were going to remake it, they could have just done what they did with the original game, but fixed things like that. I would be totally fine with things like that if you would just, ironed out, just kind of improve some of the stuff from the original that has not aged well. That's what they should have done. But that's not what they did. So
something chaos though.
Yeah.
Well, and when you look at the screenshots and the gameplay of the original remaster that they were going to do, oh man, does the trailer that just got released hurt that much more?
I haven't seen that. Wait, so was it originally going to be like more faithful to the original game then? Or
like it was going to be fixed camera angle.
That's the whole story. Dom
why would they change it?
Because I asked him why he's upset, and he gave me the whole rundown. Like, yeah, it was supposed to be a complete 1-for-1, this, that, and then all of a sudden they just show up with this.
I'm very curious. So now I'm very curious as to what changed. Like, why did all of a sudden it become a completely different game?
I can explain this though, at least in some regard. They switched teams. The original team that was working on the original remake, for whatever reason though, just got axed. Whether they were not meeting deadlines, whatever, we don't know. I don't know personally, so I can tell you on that one. But so they got a new team, which is the one that's working on the current one, and that's how we got this remake. They decided to scrap the original and just go full on, what we have now, full on 3D remake.
Isn't that always the case? It's always some other team that comes in and decides to mess everything up. But sometimes it's the opposite, though, to be fair. Sometimes there is another team that comes in and fixes things, but I guess in this case, that's not what happened.
Nah. Yeah, I'm gonna go and just go into the next question about what do you guys think they're going to like take away from the remake compared to original? Because let's be aware here, the original game is very heavy-handed on. Well, I'll say heavy-handed. There's a lot of sexuality stuff with it though, but it's subtle or on your face, and also a lot of grotesque violence. Like, once you get to a certain point, Chaos, you'll see a dude's face get completely split in half. You'll find out. I'm going to tell who it is.
I mean, if you take the violence and the sex stuff out, like, what do you have then with the fear?
Exactly. That's what I'm concerned about.
I think,
are you going to take away this game's identity?
I think any of the horror elements the original had will pretty much be gone, since this is a cover shooter and it's not really. I just get the feeling it's not even going to really try to be a horror game, except just to throw in zombies or whatever, like the enemy type from the original. But aside from that, I don't think they're really going to.
Death elements as well. Like, is that going to be gone?
Like, the atmosphere of it is pretty much going to be totally ruined, I think.
There you go.
And yeah, I mean, I think it is a good question. Like, are they going to take out the sexuality from it? Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question considering the environment we're in. I don't know. Hopefully not.
And the thing is, if you think about their relationship in it, though, I mean, like Hannah and Rain from the second one, at least, like that was pretty compared to when it came out. That was incredibly progressive. Right. I can't see them like taking out the relationship. Maybe like all the boobs and shit.
Well, that's mostly what I'm referring to.
I mean,
like
it was definitely done like because hey, check it out. These two hot chicks are banging in an elevator or whatever. You know what I mean? But I mean that's kind of part of their charm because of the kind of work that they do and the kind of work that Hannah does is like it's kind of she has that like femme fatale sort of thing about her.
Yeah,
which is like
worked as
part
a prostitute for fuck's sakes too, man. Like
part of it. It's ingrained into her personality. So I mean, that's I would hope that something like that is kept. The thing is, like, given a third person shooter environment, is it going to be explored? Like, when does Gears of War tap into Marcus Phoenix's past in anything other than like a flashback where he's shooting something in the face? Like, it's never, you know what I mean? Like, it's not a gameplay outlet where you can really explore anything other than shooting things in the face.
Yeah.
One thing I want to add to though, Sitna, sorry. That game did double down on their relationship. Like they're officially a couple, and
Okay.
Sitna. So like they did show stuff like they kissed before, like they were having heart to heart though, but it wasn't like it wasn't as much
Fan
as it was
servicey?
into. Yeah, fan service is something still there though, but like Sentinel was definitely toned down this fan service compared to 1 and 2.
Yeah, that's what mods are for.
Yeah, so I'm that's why I brought it up. Like, are they just going to eliminate it altogether with the remake? Because it is by a different team, supposed to again the original team that was working on it. So they could actually just toss out a lot of garbage.
Wouldn't it be counter to the environment we're in now for them to remove it? Since
Yes,
if we want to play their mental fucking gymnastics.
Yeah, it would actually.
Guess you'll have to keep the boob.
If you take the boob out, you're a bigot. If you censor the boob, you're bigoted. Got him.
There you go. Play their game with them.
God. Get that on a shirt, man. Let's do it.
If you censor boobs, you're a bigot. I'll do it. I'll put it on a shirt. Fuck it.
You're an enemy of humanity. That's simple.
You're against progress. You're restricting the boob. I don't know, man. The thing that really kills me is like not only the fact that other remake exists somewhere on a hard drive somewhere in those offices, but like the indie scene is littered with games now that are doing the fixed camera angle horror stuff. So like you would think this is the perfect opportunity to bring back a game that like, it isn't Resident Evil because Capcom's never going to fucking do it. And they're never going to do Dino Crisis, and Konami's never going to do Silent Hill. So like this is kind of, besides Clock Tower, this is kind of the next step down. And the only one you could really put out there like, hey, do you remember this? Well, it looks like this now and it's fucking cool. Like it's a perfect environment to do it because retro and kind of like games of the PS1 era are like really big right now. And it's just a shame that it's not being capitalized on.
I feel like
this was from IDOS. I thought so. I was just doing a little research.
I feel like what's going to happen is the remake's going to come out and everybody's going to be disappointed and the fans are going to be like, fine, I'll do it myself. And then they'll do fan remake.
They won't. There's no way they're going to stick the landing like RE2 remake where everybody just liked it and it did well enough. It's not going to happen. So at least RE2 actually had way more gore in it. So you'd think it would work with this. Probably not, though. Well, based on the way things are going.
What'll happen is it's going to come out like as a third-person shooter, and everyone's going to go, "What?" Like, because they're not going to know. They're banking on the name, but Fear Effect isn't really a popular franchise in general. It was already an
obscure game, so I mean,
yeah. So people are going to go, "What?" And then that's it. That's what's going to happen. Is that'll be the what, and then it's gone. So I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not a game developer. And I bought The Last of Us Part 1, so I can't really talk about remakes very much. But that being said, it's such a weird, wasted opportunity, especially when you had all those screenshots and resources and everything else to like just turn around and do the most generic thing you could possibly do with it. Like it's just such bullshit.
Isn't this game like years behind too? Like when it was supposed to be done?
Yeah.
Yes,
oh yeah.
I think it was supposed to be like the original reveal was back in 2016 or 2017. It was that long ago.
Has been.
I remember Dom ranting about it's been like 5 years. Where is it?
And then we get this.
Well, yeah, this is what we get. We didn't get Inferno. We got Sedna. We're not getting a remake. We're getting whatever the fuck this is.
Oh, dude, Inferno. That was a tragedy right there.
That was super tragic.
What's Inferno?
Yeah, I was looking forward to. Inferno was going to be the third game. And it was going to be fucking crazy. And then all of a sudden, like right towards the end of the project, they just said, no, we're not going to release it. And it just went away, completely disappeared.
Oh my God. That would piss me off.
Yeah, it was really annoying. As one of the like 10 people in the world that liked Fear Effect, I was really disappointed. I was like, this is such a fucking bummer. Not just because it's, more time with Hannah and all those characters, but it's like, the fixed camera angle stuff was starting to go away at the time. So I was like, you know that meme of Batman grabbing his parents like, please don't leave me? Like that was me at the time. And so when Fear Effect Inferno disappeared, it was the same fucking thing. I was like, no, please, crying in the corner. Holding on to Hannah's big boobies. Don't leave me.
Holding on to the
Okay,
Hannah
bro.
body pillow.
Yeah. Holding on to my Hannah and Rain body pillows as they're like just disappearing into the ether.
You know, with the way these games have been advertised in the past, I'm shocked there isn't an official one.
Seriously,
I
right?
feel like there should have been already.
Dude, game
Yeah.
just random
I could
random
see-
tangent. Game ads back in the day were fucking wild.
Listen. You flip it one way, Hannah's on one side, the other chick's on the other. There you
I
go.
could see this being like
Genius marketing.
like an animated series or something easily, but
Oh yeah.
I mean, it already looks
Yeah,
like it already looks like an early 2000s CGI
Yeah.
show. Already,
Mhm.
just from
Yeah, it really
just
could
from the
work for that
graphics,
shit, man.
it already looks like that. It kind of, you know what the graphics kind of remind me of that a little bit. At least Fear Effect 2 kind of looks like I forgot what the name of that Spider-Man show is. Brandon, you know which one I'm talking about.
Unlimited.
No, it was the more CG one.
Oh, CG. Oh, yeah, it's just Spider-Man, the MTV series.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah,
I forgot that was
That's
the thing.
good.
Holy shit.
Good.
Yeah,
that
of
show's
course you
good.
forget.
It got
Spider-Man
canceled.
never gets to live in the animated lands. It always dies.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
getting canceled, dude. Like, breaks my heart. But all right, I'm just gonna go ahead and move on to the last question at hand. So like being that we saw what we saw with the remake, right? How remakes in general should be made? Like, should it be more faithful, or should it just be a little bit more?
Oh boy.
I think
That's
Yeah.
very hard to say. I think it depends on like with Fear Effect, it depends on if the devs made a statement or a promise to people. If you said it's gonna be 1-for-1, make it a freaking 1-for-1. Don't flip it halfway through because that's just gonna piss everybody off. If there's no statement, I think it's 50-50 for me personally.
Yeah, I think a good example of how not to do one is recently with, of course, Last of Us Part 1. It's like, it's so to me, it's like something that is not very old in the first place. I don't really think needs to have a remake.
And also
especially
had
a remake that is basically all it is a graphical overhaul of which, it's kind of, in that point, it's kind of pointless unless you're not charging $70 for it, I guess. But
I think that was the real
kind of the
issue
break.
with
Yeah,
that remake as well.
Yeah, I feel like it wouldn't have been as harshly criticized if it wasn't, the asking price wasn't what it was. But for something like Fear Effect or some of these other games that are pretty old, I think like I guess I'm fine with either it being a 1-to-1 remake or doing something a little bit different because we do have examples like Resident Evil 2 remake where of course it's not exactly the same as the original game, and in my opinion it doesn't really need to be. Of course, people that are fans of the fixed camera angles are going to be disappointed with it, but I feel like doing some things to kind of modernize it is also okay. Like what they did with RE2 remake, as long as that still has that survival horror feel to it. I think it's fine. I feel like as long as they stay true to important elements, I guess you would say, of the original game. That's, to me, it's like fine if they reimagine or redo certain things. But yeah, like for something like Fear Effect, I mean, I would say like it's probably best to do the 1-to-1 remake because I don't know unless they're going to, I don't know. I guess here's another question within a question. Like, would you guys actually be okay if they did like, I don't know, some kind of over the shoulder, like RE2 remake sort of thing, instead of this cover shooter thing they're doing, and still had like, I guess the horror stuff and all that. Cause I guess I'd be somewhat okay if I guess it depends. Like if it's actually like, it's handled well. So I don't know. I guess I'd be okay with that. But I would say in Fear Effect's case, I'd say it should probably just be a 1-to-1 remake. It's not. If you do something too different, it's going to alienate the fan base.
See,
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned Capcom because they're like the best example of how to do a remake and also how to
Oh,
not
yeah.
do a remake.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 1, especially, is probably, in my opinion, the best remake like out there for a game.
I would agree.
Easily.
Because not only they took the original game structurally, right, but they add on so much on top of it that it's literally its own new game. Like it's became the definitive way to experience Resident Evil 1, period. Sure, they did like custom stuff though, but those cuts were minor in favor of something that's even better. And not only that though, they tweaked certain things like say Neptune. Neptune pretty much became like a puzzle boss versus just some random shark you see in the middle of the map. Stuff like that. Resident Evil 1 was pure perfect. Now going on to Resident Evil 2, that's also an example of a fucking amazing remake. Yeah, in my opinion at least. Now, his thing though, like, despite them not being like one for one, or at least trying pretty much doing like another Resident Evil 1 remake, right? It still did enough to where it kept its identity of Resident Evil 2 and then some to a certain degree. There's certain things that they fell over, right? That there's no denying that though, but it's still at its core of Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 3, on the other hand, that game is like a whole other game. Like, especially you can ask James, like he watched me play both games. He means like one game is not like the other. It's not recognizable.
I watched him play, and I'm sitting here like, I don't remember where is this in remake? Where is this? This doesn't even look like the same thing. It's like a billion things cut out that don't remind me of RE3 remake at all.
Now we got here Fear Effect. Like you guys mentioned, like they promised to do it one for one, but since they switched development teams, though, it's up there for that one, obviously. But in my opinion, though, I think you should go on for one for one and just clean up things that were not good for the original.
Yeah,
that would have been the safest route, though. But if they're going to do like the Resident Evil 2 remake effect, then honestly, like they should not have gone with cover shooter though. They should have done something like that's like akin to other stealth games like Splinter Cell mixed with other over the shoulder type stuff because it is a blend of multiple genres. So they should do what they can to keep what is familiar about the original with its genre changes. If they're going to just completely do a clean slate remake.
Oh God, you just made me have you gave me a fear effect. Remembering Splinter Cell still being remade.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. And then Prince of Persia.
And with the way Ubisoft already struck out Prince of Persia, I'm so scared for Splinter Cell.
Happening, actually, that's
they had one video talking about it, and they haven't shown anything yet.
How long ago did they announce that? Because I think I remember they announced that
a few months ago.
What? Oh, okay.
No,
maybe not. I thought I heard about.
Wait, for which?
For Splinter Cell.
For
Splinter Cell.
Yeah.
Let me look it up.
All right, let me crack my boomer knuckles here because here we talking about remakes and stuff like that. Being someone who is
8 months ago, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Oh shit.
Being someone who has seen games change from shooting like stand up cardboard on screen to where we are now, who's playing a remake while we're doing this. Remakes they either cover one or two things in my mind. So like, let's go over like what a remaster is. Like a remaster is you're basically kind of just updating visuals and maybe some quality of life stuff for a game. So like Last of Us Remastered is a great example because they upscaled, they made it 60 frames per second. You could play it on a PS4, blah, 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 the things they did with that. And then you have The Last of Us Part 1, which is a remaster because they built everything from the ground up. They added a bunch of accessibility options. They didn't touch the gameplay too much, but they added just enough everywhere else where I feel confident in the work that went into it is a remake because they remade most of that game. The only thing I didn't really touch was the gameplay. Or if you take the gameplay and you look at it from a different, perspective or present it to the player in a different way. So Resident Evil 2 remake, you've updated everything. You make, you're still going through the same motions as the original game, but it's a over-the-shoulder survival horror game instead of being what some little kids would consider antiquated fixed camera angles. So knowing those two, remaster and remake, the strangest thing about this fear effect thing is like, I'm guessing what happened was they were working on the remake itself, which you could argue is a remaster, whatever, with all the fixed camera angles and all that. And somebody really saw how successful Resident Evil 2 was, and Resident Evil 4 is coming out, and they decided to go over the shoulder just kind of out of the blue. And like, I don't know, man. It's so hard to talk about what constitutes a remake these days, because in some cases, Diablo 2, for example, Diablo 2 is a straight 1-for-1 of Diablo. They're adding extra stuff and patches and that kind of stuff. But it is one of those games that literally just has a button you could push to see, like, look at the old shit, look at the new hotness. So it's like this weird gray area, because does a remake mean the gameplay gets remade on top of the graphics, or does everything in the graphics get remade from the bottom up in order to constitute a remake, or is that just a remaster? I don't know. Being someone who's Doom, you guys know how much I talk about fucking Doom. Mm-hmm. I was so scared for Doom 2016 to come out, because I've played so much. I've probably played more Doom than I've spent time with my family at this point in my life. And Doom 2016 like blew my anus into the stratosphere. It was crazy. It was one of the better remakes I have ever played in my life. But then I look at something like Final Fantasy.
Just real quick, is
sure,
Doom
yeah.
2016? Is it a remake or a reboot though? Because that's the other thing.
That's the other thing too. Is it a reboot or is it a remake? Like, all this re-shit is fucking stupid.
Either. Technically,
I know
it's a continuation of the original series.
Yeah,
for some reason,
I thought it was like a standalone thing.
No, it's not standalone.
Well, no, technically it's a continuation.
Huh.
It's literally,
which is even weirder.
God of War, James. It's literally the same thing. It's God of War for Doom.
Isn't it technically a continuation of Doom 64? I think it was.
Yes,
okay.
it is technically a continuation of Doom 64.
Yeah,
that might be another interesting podcast to do, because Doom 2016 is a good example of doing modernization on something well. It's not a remake. It's not a remaster. It's just taking an old IP and continuing on with it and actually sticking the landing, which is hard to do.
Yeah,
really hard to do.
But for a modern audience, man, and that game's fucking amazing. But we'll get to it.
I wasn't even a big Doom person because I didn't grow up with it. But 2016, I actually went to go platinum. I was like, man, this game is fucking awesome.
And that's kind of the whole, you talk about remakes and remasters and stuff like that. And that has been the whole point of contention with, like, Last of Us Part 1, for example. Like, I personally view something like that as a remake. Now, whether it's the right way to do a remake or not, I can't really say. I can say I'm fucking impressed with something like that. But whether it's right or wrong, I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong way to do a remake, but there's definitely like Destroy All Humans, like that's like a remaster. But the second one changes so many things and improves so many things, like you could call it a remake.
I will say this though, like it depends on like how far you go with it though, because you're right.
Definitely,
it is a remake though. There's no denying that, because they rebuilt that game from ground up.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't do enough to fully go into it for it to be a remake, in my opinion, for the gameplay side.
Well, yeah, and
facelift, but that's only so far you can go. You can still could call it a remaster, just from a graphical facelift, to be honest. But
well, yeah, and that's the whole thing with Diablo 2. Diablo 2 is a remake. Diablo 2 is resurrected, but it's essentially, if you strip it down, it's a remaster. So, I mean, the line between remaster and remake, especially these days with so many remakes and stuff coming out, is so blurred that it really kind of depends on the person looking at the product to go, is this a remake or a remaster? Like, if what the hell is that game I've been playing with War? Darkstalkers?
Darksiders?
Darksiders.
Thank you. Darksiders came out and had like Unreal 4 engine shit. Is that a remake or remaster?
Oh, dude, Darksiders.
Oh, the War Master edition.
Yeah,
that game
it's
was
a remaster,
one of the best remasters out there, because they actually went out of the way to redo textures to bump them up.
Yeah,
unlike what they did the second game.
They stabilized the frame rate as well, so I was like, wow.
But we're talking like
no issues.
We're talking a massive graphical overhaul. Like you could see like the pores on War's face. You can see like his pubes poking out from his belt or whatever the fuck, is like the thing that people go nuts for these days from graphical fidelity perspective. Okay. Like we're talking super detailed bullshit. Like then is it a remake at that point if the gameplay even remains the same? Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like that's the question you have to ask yourself. Like at what point does graphical fidelity and upgrades across the board translate from remaster to remake?
It's hard to use Darksiders as an example too, because it's a game more on an art style than because Last of Us goes for realism versus art, so that's a little harder. But I do get what you mean.
It's just like one of the most recent things I've played, and like that line is different for everybody. Like it seems like a loud minority or majority of people. I'm not sure at this point because everybody, whenever you mention The Last of Us, it's like a hand grenade going off in a room.
I feel like it's down the middle.
Yeah, there's a bunch of people that are like, no, it's a remaster that's overpriced, and then there's other people that, and I'm on this side of the fence where it's like, no, that's a remake. That is a straight up remake.
That's what
because so much shit has been created from the ground up, and then there's a bunch of people that just scream their usual stuff when The Last of Us gets brought up, which is always funny. But
yeah.
So I don't know. It's remake and remaster are such weird terms that are so interchangeable. Lately, I want to say remaster is the more important thing because, like we brought up earlier with seamless HD and enhanced edition for Silent Hill, like those are remasters, I would say, because they're just taking what exists in the game already and touching everything up. And they're damn fun. I wouldn't want those games remade. I want them to be like that, but I don't know.
I don't think they could, especially with Silent Hill 2, because there's a rumor for that. Like, I don't think they could manage it unless the writing is left alone and the gameplay is relatively the same. There's no way.
Well, the rumor is the blooper team's behind it, so.
Fuck off. No, we don't want them.
No, just get Troy Baker in there. It's okay. He could save it. Just record his lines over Guy Seehe's. Jesus Christ.
He won't get paid.
I forgot. Somebody had to remind me that all they did for all the dialogue in that game was just play it louder over the old dialogue. I totally forgot.
Oh, wait, really? So they didn't even...
Yeah, in HD edition, you can hear Guy Seehe still talking in the background, and they just have Troy Baker blasted over him.
That is
so
I didn't realize that was how lazy
it's so fucked. It's so absolutely fucked.
Holy shit.
You know, the fucked part though, I can't get mad at the development team because they were working with a hand grenade as it is, right? So Konami
Hijinks Studios.
On that.
Yeah, get mad at Konami because they decided to pick this team and say, yeah, you guys can handle this, right? You make mobile games, you'll be fine.
Mobile games.
Yeah,
listen,
Konami completely.
Listen, I remember the moment my heart broke and I stopped believing in Konami was when they teased Snake Eater footage in the Fox engine, and it was a pachinko machine commercial. Yeah. And I think I stood up like Big Boss at the end of Metal Gear Solid 3 and a tear ran down my cheek as I saluted my TV because I was looking at a dead game.
Thanks for opening that old wound.
That's called the Phantom Pain, baby.
They did this.
Yeah, it's not a Phantom. It is right here, and
they did this for Fatal Frame as well. I will remind you the Fatal Frame 1. It's a pachinko game now.
My
God! Remade the cutscenes.
Don't remind me. You're reminding me of Castlevania. How that because I'm a big Castlevania fan. Hey, I like TNA, but like Castlevania, that's like a very like 1% of Castlevania.
TNA when I think Castlevania either. So
it has. I've only said it because it has its moments, certain theming like the succubus and all that, like certain monsters.
I just think of a bisexual vampire.
It's such a whatever part of the game. Like, why did you go for this?
Because the horny art
advertise it with. Yeah, erotic violence over the Excel. Like, no, it's not really what I think of, but all right.
All right, well, diversion from that, though. Let's go back on topic.
Ripping the Band-Aids off.
Yeah, so I guess, you guys anything else to say about this last one? The last question? James?
I think this is just remake and remasters.
Yeah, remakes in general, how they should be done, shouldn't be done, such and such. No.
There is no definitive answer just because of the way stuff is approached. It's way too hard to define one versus the other. Mm-hmm. Unless, like I said, unless the devs state what it is to them, and even then it will still be debatable with people. I feel like it's just too many factors to go into it. You can't definitively say one versus the other unless they name it what it is. Then you'll just have to accept it, obviously. Even if you don't agree with it, like that's what they're going to call it. Like RE2 remake. All right, it's a remake. That's it. Even if it was fixed camera like RE1. And they don't even, do they even label RE1 as RE1 remake or it's just Resident Evil, right?
It's just Resident Evil.
Just Resident Evil.
It's known colloquially in the community as remake.
I mean, obviously it pretty much is a remake, but it's it's so 1-for-1. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody calls it a remaster with better graphics. It wouldn't surprise me because it's so, like I said, 1-for-1.
I mean,
there's not
we do
much
have a
that's
remaster.
changed. Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's like remake is, and it's kind of like what Divic said in a way. Like it's if it's rebuilt from the ground up, which to me, it's like, yeah, you could say because it's 1-for-1. It's in that sense, yeah, maybe it's a remaster, but it's also just like it's also a completely different looking game. Like it's just night and day in comparison to the original game. They completely like remade everything. So to me, it's like, yeah, that's technically,
and they sucked all of the soul out of Resident Evil in the process. But it's a different argument.
All right, hold up, dog. There's one thing I forgot to mention. Crash Bandicoot. That game was referred to as a remaster, despite it being literally built from the ground up.
Wait, really? They consider the Insane Trilogy a remaster?
Yeah. Interesting.
Like, yeah, well, to me,
that is okay. I'm going to say that's nonsense.
Yeah,
that entirely
like that's a remake to me.
Up.
Like the Spyro trilogy, like those are remakes.
Spyro's are remakes.
I mean, that's the whole thing. That the idea of what constitutes a remake is so vague.
I would say CTR is harder to define too, if you think about it, because that game is also 1-for-1. Even the mechanics are generally 1-for-1. But it's got the graphical overhaul from Insane Trilogy. So what do you call it, right? I don't even think they've defined it. I assume remake. I don't know. I have to look it up for myself. Yeah, it's very hard to pick between which one. Either the devs will say something or people will see it as one thing or the other. I would say,
well, no one will ever be happy with the answer. That's the problem.
Oh, no. Nobody will be happy with the answer. It's always going to be either interpreted one way or the other. It feels a little superfluous, might be the right word. I might be using it wrong.
They're using it right.
Oh, it's either that or it's becoming semantics, one or the other. Potato at this point. Is it a remake?
Oh,
okay, yeah. Okay, they do consider CTR a remake. No, remaster. Fuck off. Here we go. I read one and then the other says remaster. I'm like, well, which is it? Yeah, this is a harder subject than I thought. I thought this would be an easy answer. It's actually not. I guess my definition might be kind of like how Ari has a seamless HD project. If you're taking the original assets and you're like upscaling them and stuff, I don't know if I could call that a remake. So everything else is relatively the same. It's not like a drastic change per se.
So what you're saying is that if they're taking the original asset and just cleaning them up, it's a remaster. But
that feels much. Yeah, I would more confidently say that sounds more like a remaster to me.
Okay.
If you made me pick for remake, I feel like you'd have to do the whole 9 yards. I guess that's how I would define it. It has to be like a complete redoing of everything, not just, we took the assets, AI upscaled them and called it a day.
Well, I don't even think it has to be a redoing of everything. I think you can still keep the same general, like, again, I'm going to say The Last of Us because that's the only thing I think of right now. You can keep the same general feel and or gameplay of something and just build everything else around it from the ground up. That's, to me, is enough work to constitute the term remake.
That's it sounds like RE1.
Because you are remaking everything. Yeah, exactly. RE1 is a straight up graphical upgrade from the original Resident Evil, but it keeps everything else intact. It adds, self-defense and a couple of other things, but it's pretty much completely intact the way it was originally.
You see, I'm glad you say that too, though, because I think if you had to compare Part 1 to Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 1 constitutes better as a remake because it actually got the way to add on to its gameplay experience.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I mentioned.
There's
like
things added on.
Those are
they've added some new features, some minor modernizations like the dual stick, or you could do D-pad, whichever you prefer, which I think is good.
But that's the remaster, though. The remake, like go back to 2002 when the remake came out, though, not the quality of life changes and remaster. Just keep that in mind.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing with Last of Us, it has a ton of stuff under the hood, and for someone like me who's kind of nuts about stuff like that, like the fact that you can use gyro aim at this point, the fact that you can change all the HDR stuff, you can blow it up to 4K, there's a performance mode, you can do like all this other kind of crap to sort of customize it to however you want it to present to yourself. Like that to me is like, okay, they've added a ton of shit. Is it enough to constitute $70? I have a disposable income, so I'm kind of like, sure, why not? But to someone on a budget, for example, like they only buy a game every couple months, probably not. So I don't know. It really depends on like what you consider it, the needs of the individual, blah blah blah. Like I got a PS5. I'm going to buy stuff for it because I need things to play on it at this point. They're not PS4 games. That's my fucking gripe with the system.
Remaster Station 5.
Been like 3 years. I have like 4 PS5 games. Woo.
Yeah, most of my shit's PS. I'm looking at my shelf right now. I see 3 white labels. I see Ratchet and Clank, Demon Souls, and I see Tales of Arise, and that's it for PS5 games. Everything else is PS4.
I literally have 3 physical games that for PS5 dedicated, not like cross-gen, like Elden Ring, like the PS4 version, or Hades. Literally, only have 3 dedicated PS5 games on my shelf.
So, like, another PS5 game comes out. Fuck, maybe that was the plan all along. Maybe Druckmann was wringing his hands together in a very particular motion. Like, no one has PS5 games, so go ahead and put this on PS5. Everyone has to buy it. Maybe that was it. Maybe I got bamboozled. I got tricked. Fuck The Last of Us. No, fuck it. Fuck everything else.
Okay, bro.
That's fine. But yeah, remake, remaster, so interchangeable at this point. But I find when something's built from the ground up, even if the gameplay remains the same, remake is pretty well constituted as like a term that you could use.
Right.
Because there's definitely people that use the term remake as like a selling point when it's very clearly not a remake of any sort. So
yeah,
I get that too.
It will be an endless debate.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't. There's no definitive answer. It's just what people interpret it as.
Yeah.
All right. You guys got any other questions you want to ask or things we'll bring up? Fear Effect?
I just want to say to Chaos to look up what the remake remaster was originally supposed to look like.
Yeah, I'll have to do that.
Because holy shit, like it'll make this whole situation that much more depressing.
Oh, that's what I asked you earlier. Actually, do you have the like stills over it? Because I can't find them personally.
Yeah, let me check around real quick.
It's sad. Most of my information comes from Brandon and Dom's depression before the trailer. Especially Dom. Dom went on like a whole tirade over it.
So there's a screen of.
Yeah, that's what he showed me. I was like, man, this looks cool.
Yeah, like
really clean. Holy shit, I forgot how good that looked.
Super clean. Super amazing looking.
Why? This looks I know what these
and you see
segments are too. Like, oh my god.
Let it out, Dom. Let it out.
Yeah, no, you see like and this is just screenshots. I mean, there's gameplay that exists somewhere.
No
in this
fucking
stuff,
way.
Awesome.
Oh my god. Why? Why would they get? Why are companies so fucking stupid? I think is the better question we need to be asking.
Welcome to modern gaming, where everyone's a fuck up.
Wait, wasn't there a screenshot of Hannah taking off her towel?
Probably somewhere.
Not safe for work. It goes.
Yeah, and this looks like this looks closer to the original art style too. It just looks like
It's one for one. It's the same camera.
Yeah,
angles. I mean,
it's funny too that I was even mad at this. I'm like, I'm not even the big advocate.
Yeah, like
for a fixed camera. It's not my thing.
Like, I'm not even a big
I still
fan
want
of
it
this
to be like
series.
this.
I'm fucking mad.
I would
seeing
play
this.
this.
Like, why would you trash this? Like, it's baffling.
If this is what because Dom explained to me, so I said, okay, if this is what they promised people, and then they went and made this shit, yeah, that is very scummy.
We need like a change.org position or something. It's like restore the original, restore the original remake or remaster.
You should change this shit now.
Go back.
Oh, does it play like two?
So it's guys talking in French, so don't pay attention to what they're saying, but just like watching the gameplay in the background, it's awesome shit.
God, okay, you know what's in this, man? I'm getting mad again. All right, so
it sucks,
James,
doesn't
we
it?
can find you. Yeah, it does. James, where can we find you, bro? Outro yourself, please.
You can find me on Twitter at DevilHunterJames.
All right, Divic, my man, where can we find you?
Twitter, Divic, and then I'm also sitting on the Discord. I do not check my Twitter, and I shitpost on it constantly, so don't expect anything serious off of it.
All right, and guess where can we find
You
you?
can find me on YouTube at KaptainKaos, as well as Twitter at KaptainKaos. You can also find my art stuff at Enigmatic Arts at Instagram.
All right. So for me, you can find me on Twitter as Immortal Brandel. I have a Twitch, 90 Damn Business. I do have a link tree. I keep forgetting to link it inside my Twitter profile.
Does this have a
so
link to your
I'm lazy.
OnlyFans?
God damn it! Stole my joke.
Not OnlyFans. I'm a fancy though.
Hear your Bumble on there?
No, honestly, I might end up starting OnlyFans. It's a joke. Like here's my OnlyFans link.
Yeah, do feet pics. People pay big for that.
Don't tempt me.
Uh,
All right, and I should probably put this disclaimer at the beginning of at the podcast, but I forgot. But to anyone that's like worked with Saber, I think that's doing this, the developer team or anyone that actually wants to look forward to this, this is just our initial reaction to what we've been shown at Gamescom. No, if things look better during development, no, we could probably do another podcast about it. But yeah, it's nothing personal. We're not attacking you. We're not telling you to get fired or anything. We just is that how we feel about it? So it's nothing personal. Yet. Don't make it personal, because some of you developers out there are kind of assholes.
Oh, please do my favorite trope of fans are complaining. You guys are wrong. Devs know better. Fuck the fans. I despise that mentality, and it's still going on. And ironically, the devs or publishers are always in the wrong on this stuff, usually.
You preach it, kitty.
Cat agrees.
Cat knows.
The cat just said, fuck Fear Effect. That's what the cat said.
Did a remake of my catnip, but it's not one for one. Fuck you.
All these politics in my catnip.
Okay. On that note, thank you for watching this episode of BioDevils podcast. Next week, hopefully, we will do our Boomer Shooter podcast.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, so until then, have a great day, night, or where the fuck you are in the world, and be safe.
See you guys.
Bye.